Yes. So tonight we are looking at a very important topic to do with health, topical subject, and it is the whole matter of drugs, right? Drugs. And when we talk about drugs, what kind of drugs I'm talking about? I'm talking about the drugs that are legal. But the first thing I want to do is, sometimes you can infringe some laws with these. These laws might not necessarily be just laws, but as far as possible, we want to be in line with the laws of the land. Now, so to begin, I'm going to give what I call a disclaimer, right? And the disclaimer, I'm going to give a disclaimer. I wrote it down. Let me just find it and read it. Okay, so the disclaimer is this. So the purpose of this talk is to provide information and education. It is not to diagnose or treat any disease. How you use the information is your responsibility. So I'm not giving any counsel to anyone regarding their sickness, or I'm not giving any specific counsel to you. I'm just looking at the information that is available, but how you choose to use the information, it's your responsibility, that, right? So I'll begin. Now, the reason why I look at this topic is that, as you know, I've been a pharmacist for many years, and though I'm not practicing, I'm not working in the pharmacy anymore. So you can see that if the question was to be asked, is Brother Ferrell in favor of drugs or is he against drugs, then you would more than likely say it seems as if Brother Ferrell is against drugs. And you would probably be right. And so I'm going to be looking at drugs tonight. And how I look at these drugs is I have studied, statements from the testimony of Jesus, which we call the Spirit of Prophecy, which are the writings of Ellen G. White, to get some perspective or view as to what is the thought of the Lord for his people on the whole matter of drugs. Is the Lord into this drugs business? Let us see. Now, the first statement I will look at is taken from Counsels on Diets and Foods, right? And that is page 302. And it says, there are many ways of practicing the healing art, but there is only one way that heaven approves. God's remedies are the simple agencies of nature that will not tax or debilitate the system through their powerful properties. Pure air and water, cleanliness, a proper diet, purity of life, and a firm trust in God are the remedies for the want of which thousands are dying. Yet these remedies are going out of date because their skillful use requires work that the people do not appreciate. Fresh air, exercise, pure water, and clean, sweet premises are within the reach of all, with but little expense. But drugs are expensive, both in the outlay of means and the effect produced upon the system. And this one was originally written in Testimonies for the Church, Volume 5, page 443, and it was written in 1885. So in this, it tells us, the effect of drugs on the system, expensive on the system, because the body has to, to get rid of the drugs out of the system. Continuing. Next question we want to look at is, do drugs cure disease? Do drugs cure disease? Right? You want to consider that. Do drugs cure disease? And this statement is from Counsels on Health, page 89.2. 89, paragraph 2. Now it goes like this. By the use of poisonous drugs, many bring upon themselves lifelong illness, and many lives are lost that might be saved by the use of natural methods of healing. The poisons contained in many so-called remedies create habits and appetites that mean ruin to both soul and body. Many of the popular nostrums are medicines called patent medicines, and even some of the drugs dispensed by physicians act a part in laying the foundation of the liquor habit, the opium habit, the morphine habit, that are so terrible a curse to society. Right? So some of the drugs, they open the way for people to become addicted to things like morphine and, strong liquor and other strong drugs. Okay, and this one, which as a directly refers to the question, do drugs cure disease? Listen to this. People need to be taught that drugs do not cure disease. So, if we thought that drugs cure disease, the thing is, here it says, people need to be taught that drugs do not cure disease. And we know that drugs don't cure disease. The drugs that people take for things like diabetes or high blood pressure or so on and so forth, they don't cure the disease. Otherwise, after a time, people would stop taking them because they would have been cured. But people need to be taught that drugs do not cure disease. It is true that they sometimes afford present relief. Sometimes you take them and you seem to get better, you get relief. And the patient appears to recover as the result of their use. This is because nature has sufficient vital force to expel the poison, that is the drug, and to correct the conditions that caused the disease. Health is recovered in spite of the drug, but in most cases, the drug only changes the form and location of the disease. Often, the effect of the poison seems to be overcome for a time, but the result remains in the system and work great harm at some later period. The use of poisonous drugs may bring upon themselves, well, I read that part before, right? So it's Counsels on Health, page 89. So do drugs cure disease? I would say no. The drugs don't cure disease. Then in second selected messages, it speaks of drug taking like this. It says, those who make a practice of taking drugs sin against their intelligence and endanger their whole afterlife. There are herbs that are harmless, the use of which will tide over many apparently serious difficulties. But if all would seek to become intelligent in regard to their bodily necessities, sickness would be rare instead of common. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Manuscript 86, written in 1897. And in this day and age that we are living in, which is a time when we have greater advancement, and we can get information on things, it is certainly a good time to learn about the herbs and the other remedies that are there. Okay, another statement on drugs, taken from Christian Temperance and Bible Hygiene, page 120.3. It says, a great amount of good can be done by enlightening all to whom we have access as to the best means, not only of curing the sick, but of preventing disease and suffering. The physician who endeavors to enlighten his patients as to the nature and cause of their maladies and to teach them how to avoid disease may have uphill work, but if he is a conscientious reformer, he will talk plainly of the ruinous effects of self-indulgence in eating, drinking, and dressing, of the overtaxation of the vital forces that has brought his patients where they are. He will not increase the evil by administering drugs till exhausted nature gives up the struggle. So it would be good if we could find some physicians who, they know another way to take care of their patients other than just to write a prescription and say, take this drug and that drug. Okay, now, at the time when Sister White was around, or the early part of the development of our church, the brethren used to set up sanitariums. In fact, they were counseled by the Spirit of Prophecy to set up sanitariums. And these sanitariums are places where people would go to be sick people would go to learn how to get better, and they would also have physicians there who would help them to get better. So I'm going to look at some of the statements on the sanitarium issue. And this statement is taken from, all right, I soon tell you where it's taken from, but it deals with sanitarium dietary, rational care and good food. Institutions for the care of the sick are to be established. That was the counsel. Where those who are suffering from disease may be placed under the care of God-fearing medical missionaries and can be treated, without drugs. To these institutions, there will come those who have brought disease upon themselves by improper habits of eating and drinking and a simple, wholesome, palatable diet is to be provided. There is to be no starvation diet. Wholesome articles of food are to be combined in such a way as to make appetizing dishes. So this is taken from manuscript 50, page 1905. It is in Counsels on Diets and Foods, page 281. So when the sanitariums were setting up the sanitariums, you know, when Sister White was alive, the council that she played a big part in providing guidance to our leading brethren and to the people the way in which they are to work. So, you know, here she's telling them that sanitariums, that we were to set up sanitariums. I think we still have some sanitariums today, though they may be operated by people affiliated with the church, but not necessarily operated by the church as such. Okay. Regarding the remedies in the sanitariums. Here she says, rational remedies in the sanitariums. Here she says, the light given me was that a sanitarium should be established and that in it drug medication should be discarded. So we're talking about drugs, and we're looking at the history of drugs in our denomination health ministry, and what was the guidance given by the testimony of Jesus. And we are seeing here it says, the light given me was that a sanitarium should be established and that in it drug medication should be discarded. So how are we going to treat the people if drug medication is to be discarded? You know, the time that we're living in now, it would seem as if you can't deal with sickness without drugs, based on how the world runs. The center and focus is on drugs. So if you as people, we expect to get drugs too when we go to the doctor. If we should go to the doctor and the doctor don't write a prescription and give us, we will probably storm out mad and say, no, go back to him again, because, you know. But that is the teaching that we have gotten, that we cannot overcome sickness without drugs. But we can see that it was not the case, because here it is we are told that the light given me was that a sanitarium should be established and that in it drug medication should be discarded. And so what we're going to treat the people with? Here it says, and simple, hear that word? Simple, rational methods of treatment employed for the healing of disease. In this institution, people were to be taught how to dress. Dressing has to do with our health, you know. How to dress. Breathe. Breathing has to do with our health too. And to eat properly. How to prevent sickness by proper habits of living. Right? And this was written in 1905, titled Letter 79. But it's found in Counsels on Diets and Foods, page 303. All right, just continuing there. It says, in our sanitariums, looking at all the treatments that we use in our sanitariums, or that was advised from the spirit of prophecy as to what to use in the sanitariums. In our sanitariums, we advocate the use of simple remedies. Hear that word? Simple remedies. We discourage the use of drugs. Why? For they poison the current of the blood. In these institutions, sensible instruction should be given how to eat, how to drink, how to dress, and how to live so that health may be preserved. And this was written in 1908. So imagine that drugs were to be discarded, and that matters like, and that simple things like how we eat, how we drink, how we dress were to be used to help people to recover instead of giving them drugs, which poison the current of the blood, as we are told here. All right? Moving on. So, also, she wrote some instructions directly to some of the health workers, and this is taken from Second Selected Messages, page 383. Okay, here she says, as it is generally practiced, drug medication, as it is generally practiced, is a curse. Healthful Living, page 246. Do not administer drugs. True, drugs may not be as dangerous wisely administered as they usually are, but in the hands of many, they will be hurtful to the Lord's property. The Lord's property is our bodies. So when I studied it, I found over 200 and something references on drugs throughout the books, and but I only took out a few as preparation for this presentation. But you can see that the drugs were not viewed in a favorable light. Another statement on drugs in our sanitariums. In our sanitariums, we advocate the use of simple remedies. As the servant of the Lord writing again. She says, we discourage the use of drugs, for they poison the current of the blood. All right. And here's another statement on drugs regarding that they should. Okay. My dear friends, instead of taking a course to baffle disease, you are petting it and yielding to its power. You should avoid the use of drugs and carefully observe the laws of health. If you regard your life, you should eat plain food, prepared in simplest manner, and take more physical exercise. Each member of the family needs the benefit of health reform, but drugging should be forever abandoned. For while it does not cure any malady, it enfeebles the system, making it more susceptible to disease. Testimonies for the Church, volume 5, page 311. So the drugs were certainly not viewed in a favorable light, because if it is saying that, but drugging should be forever abandoned, you can see that is, if something is to be forever abandoned, that means that there should not come a time when this is what we depend on. If it is to be forever abandoned, something forever abandoned, that means it reach way in the future. That would be my understanding of it. I don't know if you agree. Okay, so okay, here now she is a statement on the training. She wrote something because, we had schools that teach medical workers, doctors, teach nurses, and so on. So this is a statement in reference to those schools. It says, the education that meets the world's standard is to be less and less valued by those who are seeking for efficiency in carrying the medical missionary work in connection with the work of the third angel's message. They are to be educated from the standpoint of conscience, and as they conscientiously and faithfully follow right methods in their treatment of the sick, these methods will come to be recognized as preferable to the method of nursing to which many have been accustomed, which demands the use of poisonous drugs. We should not at this time seek to compete with worldly medical schools. Should we do this, our chances of success would be small. We are not now prepared to carry out successfully the work of establishing large medical institutions of learning. Moreover, should we follow the world's methods of medical practice, exacting the large fees that worldly physicians demand for their service, we would work away from Christ's plan for our ministry for the sick. There should be at our sanitariums intelligent men and women who can instruct in Christ's methods of ministry. Under the instruction of competent, consecrated teachers, the youth may become partakers of the divine nature and learn how to escape the corruptions that are in the world through lust. All right. So that's a statement regarding the education in our institutions. All right. Okay. Now here's a statement on. This is the final statement I'm going to give you. This is a statement on not on drugs specifically, but on herbs in the place of drugs. All right, here's a statement on drugs, and herbs rather. It says, there are many simple herbs which if our nurses would learn the value of, they could use in the place of drugs and find very effective. I write these things that you may know that the Lord has not left us without the use of simple remedies, which when used will not leave the system in the weakened condition in which the use of drugs so often leaves us. We need well-trained nurses who can understand how to use the simple remedies that nature provides for restoration to health, and who can teach those who are ignorant of the laws of health how to use these simple but effective cures. All right, so not a favorable picture on coming from the testimony of Jesus on drugs. So I would say that we ought to depend more upon the Lord and less upon drugs. Okay. Now, in Revelation chapter, I'm going to look at 4 Bible texts before I close. Now, in Revelation chapter 21, verses 8. Now, in Revelation 21, verse 8, you can turn there with me if you have it. It says, but the fearful, and unbelieving, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Do you see the word sorcerers in that text, in that verse? Okay. Now, let me take off this. All right. Cancel that. All right. Revelation. All right. Revelation chapter 21. Revelation 21. Okay. All right. Okay. So in Revelation chapter 21 is verse 8, right? Yeah, verse 8. Now, I'm going to show you something, brethren, that it was startling to me when I noticed it. But in Revelation 21, verse 8, it says, okay, looking at the word sorcerer. Looking at the word sorcerer. Now, many of us, we have on our phone or in our tablet, we can switch to the Greek and see what the Greek is saying in it. Now I switch to the Greek and look at the word sorcerer, sorcerers. Now, the word for sorcerers is this word, which is sound like this: pharmakous. Pharmakous. That's the word for sorcerers, and this is what it gives as the meaning: one who prepares or uses magical remedies. Sorcerer. From pharmakon, in brackets, a drug, that is, a spell-giving potion. And in Strong's Concordance, it says, from pharmakon, which is a drug, that is a spell-giving potion. And then it says, a druggist. And also in brackets, it says, pharmacist or poisoner. That is, by extension, a magician or a sorcerer. So when I studied this, it seemed to me too close for comfort to see that a pharmacist is pharmacists that we have today. Back then, back then, they were actually called sorcerers, and the same word that we use for the pharmacists actually come from the Greek, which they would see as the sorcery. Now, the other text so that was not comforting to me at all. Another text now is found in Revelation chapter 9, verse 21. It says, neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. Now, that's Revelation 9. It's Revelation 9, verse 21. All right, looking at what the Greek says there. Okay, just peering at what the Greek says there. No, it says, looking at the Greek there that deals with sorcery as well, it says pharmakeia. And then the definition that they give: one, the use or the administering of drugs, poisoning, sorcery, magical arts, often found in connection with idolatry and fostered by it. Metaphorically, the deceptions and seductions of idolatry. And Strong's goes further. It says medication or pharmacy, that is, by extension, magic, literal or figurative, sorcery or witchcraft. And then there is also the pharmacus, which is referring to the personnel, one who prepares or uses magical remedies, sorcerer. Origin from pharmakon, a drug that is a spell-giving potion. A drug that is spell-giving potion, a druggist or pharmacist or poisoner, that is by extension, magician or sorcerer. Now I heard some people at the crusade that we had down by RT's there. Somebody came and was doing a health talk. And I heard distinctly the person said that, that some of us were involved in witchcraft. And then when I went and studied further, this is what I found. So it was too close for comfort for me. And based on the different statements that we have seen, we see that the Lord is not into this thing. The Lord would not encourage us to go to depend upon drugs rather, and the people who prepare drugs, but rather to depend upon Him. Now, the final text is 3 John 2. And it says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth." So this is what God wants for us. And I believe that the Lord giving us those things through the testimony of Jesus is part of His plan as well for us to prosper and be in health. Some things are difficult and they may require a sacrifice, but whatever sacrifice we make for the Lord and for heaven is certainly a very wise decision. Would you agree? Still with me?